wasn't starting my recovery journey because my alcohol use was problematic. I was starting my recovery journey because I was suicidal. And it all came to a head one day when I had been drinking since that morning. I was trying to figure out, I didn't want to leave my kids without a mom, with just the trauma of having a mother who died by suicide. But I also didn't want to just leave them where they didn't, know what was going on. And so the only option that was viable in my head was that I took us all out of this world. So I was cooking Hamburger Helper, and I was pretty intoxicated, and I was trying to figure out a way that I could kill my children that wouldn't cause them any pain, because I didn't want them to be in pain. I just couldn't see any other way out of that. I didn't want them to live with that trauma growing up, and all of that. And it was at that point I was like, whoa, like I'm truly, honestly think that this is the only option. I need to call my best friend. And I had called her to come over so that way I could leave. But she's smarter than I am and knew I was a runner. So she brought our sitter over so our sitter could watch the kids and she could make sure that I stayed in the house, and dumped my booze out. And the next morning, after I, woke up from that, I realized like it's time that I change something, because that was really, really close. And so I went to the doctor that week and got on an antidepressant to address my suicidal ideations. Not recognizing, of course, at that point that alcohol played a major role in that. Addiction has always been in my life since, I always joke, like since in utero. But really, whether it's a parent, a grandparent, aunt, uncle, brother, sister, it was so normal to me that I didn't realize that my drinking was actually disordered and that everybody else's around me was disordered. So when alcohol didn't fix me and it didn't make me happier, to me that was like another like nail in the coffin, like you're so messed up that even alcohol doesn't fix you, kind of thing. It wasn't until later on that I came to the realization that it was the alcohol that was the problem. Oh my God, they're all needed. They're all needed. Just like addiction happens on a continuum, so does treatment. It happens on a continuum, and everything serves a purpose. Okay, like why I would start using substances and how an addiction developed with me is different than how it developed in my daughter, right? What I needed was different than what she needed, and what I resonated with and bought into, had an emotional buy-in, was different for me than it would be for her, right? And that's how it all works. So it's not that one is better than the other. We need to have all of them. We need to have the entire continuum and smorgasbord, if you will, of treatment options available, because some may be able to use substances responsibly, and then other substances not. I could take benzodiazepines. I dislike them like terribly. I don't like the way they make me feel. It's not something that I would have a problematic use with. Opiates, on the other hand, are like a love of mine. They made me feel like Superwoman. I still can't, to this day, use those responsibly. If I had a prescription, I can guarantee that it would be gone in about a quarter of the time that it was supposed to be, because that's problematic for me, and it always has been. We put just as much effort into recovery supports as we put getting people into treatment. So we see all of these ads, all of these news stories, all of these, families who are aching and are begging for treatment, at the lobbyist stores, right? At the legislator's door. We need to focus that effort on the recovery piece and on the actual solution to addiction, because the solution to addiction is recovery, correct? And everybody's recovery looks totally different. What works for somebody who's like a CFO of Honeywell and is late 40s and develops an addiction at that stage in his life, treatment for him is going to look way different than a 19, 20, 21-year-old who has never had a job, who has always lived with parents. You know what I mean? Like it's so different, and we need to and we need to stop having that conversation of which one's better is really where it's at, because they're all needed and they all serve a purpose, and not one of them is going to work for everyone.